The wind howls over the Baltic Sea, cold, relentless, ancient. Beneath its gray waves lie the memories of a century drenched not in hatred, but in ambition. For 100 years, the waters between Sweden and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth were more than trade routes. They were frontiers of destiny. On these frozen shores, empires rose and faltered, kings gambled with fate, and Europe's balance of power shifted with every cannon's roar. It began not with vengeance, but with vision. The Baltic was the heart of northern Europe. Whoever ruled it, ruled trade, wealth, and influence. The Commonwealth, vast and proud, stretched from the Carpathian Mountains to the sea. Poland and Lithuania together formed a union of nobles, warriors, and scholars, a realm that believed itself unbreakable. Across the water, Sweden was awakening. Once a quiet kingdom, it had found new strength in discipline, innovation, and faith. Its young kings dreamed not of isolation, but of empire. The two powers were bound to meet, not as friends, not as enemies, but as rivals destined by geography and history. Their borders brushed against the same shores, their ships crossed the same currents, their ambitions collided like storms. The spark was small at first. Trade disputes, border tensions, shifting alliances. But small sparks can burn entire centuries. The Livonian lands, a patchwork of fortresses, forests, and ports, became the arena of contest. Each side claimed rights. Each side saw opportunity. The first clashes came like whispers, skirmishes on frozen fields, naval blockades in the mist. But soon, those whispers became thunder. The northern wars had begun. In the early battles, the Commonwealth seemed secure. Its cavalry, the famed winged hussars, thundered across the plains, unmatched in courage and elegance. Their charge could shatter lines like waves against rock. But Sweden had something new: discipline, precision, and reform. Their soldiers moved not in chaos, but in rhythm, muskets, pikes, and cannon working as one. The battlefield was changing. The age of knights was fading, and the age of gunpowder was rising. Through snow and storm, the Baltic coast became a chessboard. Fortresses like Riga, Danzig, and Narva stood as gateways to the sea. Every victory came at the price of another man's loss. Every treaty carried the seeds of the next war. It was not only soldiers who fought. Diplomats, merchants, and kings waged battles of words and will. The Commonwealth sought to protect its vast lands and keep its noble order intact. Sweden sought recognition, empire, and control of the trade that flowed through the Baltic like lifeblood. One of the most striking figures of this long conflict was Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North. A man of vision and intellect, he redefined warfare in Europe. Under his command, Sweden became more than a kingdom, it became a symbol of modern military power. His armies were mobile, his strategies bold, his leadership relentless. To his opponents, he was a storm that could not be stopped. Yet even he knew, victory is never without cost. Across the water, the Commonwealth watched with wary eyes. Its strength was vast but divided, its system noble yet fragile. The Sejm, its parliament, could raise armies but also delay them. The Commonwealth's greatness lay in its liberty, but that liberty was both blessing and burden. As Sweden grew stronger, the nobles debated, argued, and dreamed of peace while their enemies prepared for war. The wars came in waves. The First Northern War, the Deluge, the Great Northern War, each one reshaping the map, each one etching deeper scars into the Baltic lands. During the Deluge, Sweden's armies swept deep into the Commonwealth, occupying cities, breaking alliances, and testing the endurance of a nation built on pride. For a moment, it seemed the sun of Poland-Lithuania might never rise again. But history never moves in a straight line. Even as the Commonwealth bled, it endured. Peasants, nobles, and soldiers alike resisted, their faith and will unbroken. The spirit of defiance, not in hatred, but in hope, burned quietly beneath the ashes of defeat. And from that spirit came survival. As the years turned to decades, the Baltic Sea saw endless sails, fleets clashing, ports changing hands, and treaties written only to be torn apart. Yet with each conflict, both sides changed. Sweden reached the height of its power, stretching across Scandinavia, Finland, and the Baltic states. But empires born from ambition are often consumed by it. The Great Northern War would test that truth. When Russia entered the stage under Peter the Great, the balance shattered. The Baltic, once a duel between Sweden and the Commonwealth, became a storm of nations. Armies marched from every direction, from the frozen north, from the plains of Poland, from the forests of the east. It was no longer a contest for trade or land. It was a struggle for survival and identity. For Sweden, it was the test of endurance. For the Commonwealth, it was the test of resilience. And for Europe, it was the reshaping of destiny. The Battle of Poltava marked the turning point. Sweden's ambitions broke under Russian strength. The empire that once dominated the Baltic began to crumble. The Commonwealth, weakened but alive, found brief relief. Yet it too faced its own storms within. The nobility's freedom, once its pride, became its weakness. Internal divisions left it vulnerable to neighbors who no longer feared its power. The century of war had forged and exhausted both nations. When the guns finally fell silent, the map of the Baltic had changed forever. Sweden, though smaller, emerged as a nation defined by order and modern identity. The Commonwealth, though still vast, carried the marks of every battle, proud, wounded, and forever changed. But beyond politics and power, something deeper remained, the shared memory of endurance. The people of both realms had lived through famine, siege, and fire. They had seen cities fall and rise again. They had buried kings and crowned new ones. And through it all, the Baltic never stopped moving. Its tides washing away blood, its winds carrying whispers of peace. Today, when ships cross the calm waters between Poland, Lithuania, and Sweden, they pass over centuries of struggle, over the bones of forgotten soldiers, the ruins of wooden forts, the silence of dreams once lost to war. Yet the sea remembers not just conflict, but connection. For every century of rivalry, there came centuries of trade, dialogue, and shared culture. The story of the Baltic is not one of endless war, but of transformation. From bloodshed came diplomacy, from division came coexistence, and from rivalry came identity. The Commonwealth and Sweden, once bitter opponents, helped shape the North, its borders, its languages, its soul. A century of war may have begun with ambition, but it ended with understanding. The lessons of that age echo even now. Power fades, peace endures, and the tides never cease. History is not just battles and borders. It's the memory of how humanity learns to move forward, even after 100 years of conflict. If this story made you see the Baltic not as a sea that divided nations, but as a mirror of endurance and transformation, then stay with us. Like this video to support true history storytelling, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to uncover the next chapter of Europe's hidden past. Because history never sleeps. It waits quietly beneath the waves.